extreme, mind. In the words of the knighted mathematician James Jeans, the world looks more like a great thought than a great machine. Biblical theology agrees totally, telling us, as we will learn, that God used a substrate of wisdom with which to build the world. This divine wisdom or mind is present in every iota of the world's being. It explains how the energy of the creation, essentially super-powerful light beams, could become alive and sentient, able to feel love and joy and wonder. Divine wisdom was and is present, guiding and forming the way. The secular world, of course, takes a different stance. If we can get past the question of what created the universe from nothing, was it God? We then let the laws of nature take the credit for producing, in some as yet unknown way, the magnificence of life from the Big Bang burst of pure, exquisitely hot energy. All this by random chance. It takes a stretch of the imagination, but that is all that is available to a secular explanation of our cosmic genesis. Though in my books and with my students, I present our genesis from a very different view, that of a creating God that is present and active, I too face a dilemma, and my questioning students do not let me ignore the problem. There is something very basic missing in the simplistic view of the God of the Bible operating and controlling the workings of the world. Most obviously, if God is in control, why isn't the world perfect? Not just from our humanly limited view of perfection, but even in a biblical accounting, there are multiple examples by which we learn that the world has its faults. Most blatantly, God brought the biblical flood at the time of Noah to revamp a misdirected world. Couldn't God have foreseen this potential for disaster and nipped it in the bud before it blossomed into a worldwide debacle? Are we dealing with an absentee God? A God that only once in a while pays attention to the world it created to see if things are going according to some divine schedule? A superficial reading of the Bible might give that impression. A detailed study of God as described in the Bible, however, presents a very different picture. For example, as the Israelites are about to enter Canaan, God promises to fight for their victory, but then tells any individuals who have a new home or are recently engaged to marry to return home, lest they die in battle. God promises to fight alongside the Israelites to help gain victory for the army, but there is no guarantee of survival given to any particular individual. In another incident, God promises to send hornets ahead of the Israelite army to drive out the enemy snipers, but not to drive the enemy out too quickly, lest the beasts of the field multiply. God could also have controlled the beasts, just as God controlled the hornets, but refused to do so. The biblical message is that God is there to help, but steps back. In biblical language, hides his face, and insists that we do our part in the job. God has chosen us to be partners. With the divine hiding of face, God's presence becomes masked, at times even unpredictable, and certainly not always controlling events. This is a dynamic force, not some static entity able to be pigeonholed into how we think a God should act within its creation. The overwhelming goodness of the world is so extreme that every sorrow stands out as an unnecessary tragedy. In simplistic terms, God could and should stop every form of undeserved trouble. But that is not the God of the Bible, as the book of Job so blatantly reveals. The God of the Bible, by the very act of creating the universe, has relinquished a portion of control. With this act, God imbued and empowered humankind with the task of getting a partly perfect world to become fully perfect. This is a tremendous vote of confidence by God in our ability, notwithstanding the fact that God